Welcome back to Black News Tonight. Haiti's former President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in his home on July 7th earlier this summer. To this day, no one has been found guilty for the politically charged murder, and there are still more questions remaining than answers. But a very recent report by the New York Times sheds much needed light on the potential motives and the main actors behind the assassination. In the report titled, "Haiti's Leader Kept a List of Drug Traffickers, His Assassins Came for It," Maria Abi-Habib details the slain president's efforts to curb drug trafficking and arms smuggling. It's been on the rise in the first Black Republic of the Western Hemisphere, and a highly confidential list of people who are, she says, who are engaged in that activity. She says some Haitian officials now believe that he was killed for these efforts. Maria Abi-Habib joins me now. She's the bureau chief for Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean for the New York Times. And we welcome her to Black News Tonight. Maria, good to see you. What were some of the anti-drug and gun smuggling actions that former President Moïse took? And they seem to have ruffled some feathers. What were they?
Yeah, ruffled some feathers is right. Well, there were a few. One was that he tried to clamp down on the eel trading business, which is a highly lucrative industry in Haiti. It's a trade that happens with China mostly. And Haitian police are at the moment taking a look at whether or not it's a money laundering conduit for drug trafficking. Now, people who, former President Michel Martelly, who tapped Moïse to succeed him, his brother-in-law, Kiko Saint Remy, is highly influential in that eel industry. And has cornered the market. We spoke to fishermen who said that, they had to sell to Kiko or saw their catch rot. They said that they were intimidated to sell to him. And also remember that Kiko is allegedly suspected of being a narcotics trafficker. We've gotten that from police in Haiti and also, former DEA agents who were investigating him very recently. So that's one thing. Another was that Moïse was trying to nationalize a port that's privately owned by one of Haiti's biggest families. And it has had several police, raids or seizures, I should say, of illegally trafficked arms, which has been reported in the Haitian media. And then he also found an airstrip in a savanna in the middle of the country called Savandian. And he tried to shut that down. And that airstrip, in the month or so before Moïse was killed, allegedly 12 planes with about 4,000 to 4,500 kilos of cocaine were landing and bringing this cocaine to this airstrip. And allegedly Haitian police were actually found to be offloading it and then trafficking it through the country. Much of that cocaine is suspected to go to the United States and Europe. So those were some of the things that he was trying to clamp down on in the months before he was killed.
So this high-profile list, the list that allegedly the assassins were looking for right after murdering the president, he was going to use that list as an investigative tool. Was he going to aggressively prosecute these people? Was he going to... What do we believe, or what does the best evidence suggest was going to happen with the list itself?
I neglected to mention the list. So what we had found in our investigation is that actually President Moïse knew a lot of these alleged drug traffickers quite intimately. It's unclear why he knew them. He was in business with some of them. He was friends with others. And these are people who are in Michel Martelly, former president.
Maria, for clarity's sake, just when you say he was in business with some of the drug traffickers, you don't mean narcotics business.
Well, we're not really sure, because there's lots of legitimate businesses that have question marks around it. On the outside, it seems like legitimate businesses. So one of them was the eel trade. One of them was a cracker company called Mariella Crackers. That was, linked to a person who has disappeared and was arrested briefly for drug trafficking, and was freed after former President Michel Martelly's justice minister intervened. So Moise, I think we really need to make clear, was not a saint. There's serious questions around where this man came from and what kind of businesses he was into before he became president. But all we really know at this point is that he then decided that the people who put him into power, which is Mr. Martelly and the people around him, he felt were undermining him and his presidency. And we have that from several associates, some who went on the record, others who fear for their life, rightfully so, because Haiti's a dangerous place, and told us this in confidence. And he decided, hey, I know these people. I know these people pretty well. I've known them for years. I'm going to write a list that breaks down narcotics and arms smuggling in the country and the powerful people, whether they're business families or political families or both, who support this criminal underworld. And he was going to hand it over to the United States government. Now, I know that we all think about the United States government as an omnipresent force, especially it's had a really terrible track record in Haiti, involved in a coup and other terrible things. But we also have to recognize that Haiti has become so difficult that the DEA office has a really hard time doing any investigations. Haitian police have been found to participate in the drug trade and arms trafficking, according to several sources and our reporting. And it makes it very difficult for U.S. law enforcement to pair with local Haitian authorities to collaborate on investigations. And the United States is unable to run a wiretapping program in Haiti, which is essential to make, these huge cases that involve narcotics, for example. So for somebody who so intimately knows this world to hand over a list is quite valuable.
You talk about, and you just spoke about the relationship between former Haitian President Michel Martelly, also Jovenel Moïse, and even Charles Saint Remy. And you also recount a conversation that took place between former First Lady Martelly and one of Moïse's campaign managers. Can you talk a little bit about that dialogue and how that might be representative of a relationship that we don't fully understand?
Yes. So you have to understand that Haiti's I've never really had to cover race before in any of my other beats because everybody has been the same race but different religions, and that's where the big problems have been traditionally in whatever I've covered. So this is very new to me, but in Haiti, there's kind of three different classes, for better or for worse. There are people of European origin who have been the traditional traders and kind of, the oligarchs of the country for the last 100 years or so in huge businesses. Then you have mulattoes who are, kind of also of the elite. And then you have dark-skinned Haitians. And so I had several people tell me on the record as well that the reason why Moise was chosen was because he was dark-skinned and a peasant, and he would sell well to average Haitians because the majority of Haiti is not of the elite. They are not mulatto. They are not white. And so that was one of the big impetuses, apparently, for Michel Martelly to choose Jovenel Moïse. Now, what our reporting reveals is the extent of influence the First Lady, the former First Lady, Mrs. Martelly, has had in both Michel Martelly's government and also Jovenel Moïse's government. And so we heard from one of Moïse's campaign managers who ended up being a high-ranking government official, her name is Esther Antoine, that she was called in when she was on the campaign trail pushing Jovenel to the masses in Haiti. And she was called to the Martelly family home by Sophia, who told her, you need to start telling us who Jovenel meets with and what he's talking about. Now, Esther, in her telling of it, says that she pushed back and said, why do I need to tell you this? I am working for Jovenel. I'm not working for you, the Martelly family. And Sophia apparently said to her, you don't seem to understand. Jovenel is nothing more than a property. Now, Esther says that her jaw dropped to the floor and said, excuse me, what did you say? And Sophia apparently repeated it in French. Jovenel is a property. And that is part of the reason why Jovenel decided to turn on the very people who put him in power was because, from what I understand from many of his associates, he felt absolutely stifled. He might not have been a saint. He also had corruption allegations against him, which we cannot overlook. But it seems like he was trying to do at least something for his country, which is build roads and infrastructure, because he was a man who came from peasant origins, from a very, very poor farming town. And he, like many Haitians, looked at the capital and thought, these people just ignore us. We have nothing in exchange for being Haitians just like them. And he wanted to be able to do something for the country.
Well, something was certainly done for the country, and the jury remains sort of out on what that was, or whether this was somebody attempting to crack down on corruption, or whether it was someone who was simply trying to control the drug trade himself and was killed in the process. We don't know. I'm not casting any aspersions. I'm not saying what happened, but everyone who's on the ground who's investigating this seems to say that this is a very, very complicated matter with many, many unanswered questions. And so, Maria, we're going to keep coming back to you because we need to figure this thing out for the good of the Haitian people and for the good of the global community. Thank you so much for your insight and for the hard work you all did reporting and investigating this.